Hi everyone, thank you for joining our first virtual roundtable. Let's talk a little bit about today's agenda. First, we're going to start with a presentation by Ardene, Marie-Laurence. Then we're going to go to bareMinerals with Blas and Natalie. And then we're going to wrap out with a presentation from April, who is the founder and president of retailU. So we're going to start with Marie-Laurence, who is from Ardene. Ardene is a retailer that has 375 stores with 4,500 employees, and they have created a toolkit for reopening stores that I'm sure all of you will find very interesting. Marie-Laurence, please take it away.
What the store operations are going to look like going forward in terms of the flow of people in the store. So that's everything like the decals on the floor and how people are moving around the store, how customer service is changing, and not changing. So I'll go into that a bit later. Other details of store operations, and lastly, employee support. And then we also ask them to refer to the marketing and visual document, which I'll talk about at the end. So this is the first section. Every section has a little introductory blurb here. We obviously want to restate that the employees' health and safety is the number one priority. We wouldn't be reopening stores if we didn't think there was a way to do it safely. And we want our employees to feel safe to come back to the store. So that's why this section is first, very important to us. And then we have, for example, social distancing, what that means for them in the store. So avoid any physical contact with your colleagues, always maintain a distance of 6 feet. When passing merchandise, always use, like a surface, pass it on a table for the other person to pick up and things like that. We also have personal protection equipment that we're going to be sending them. The challenge for us, which I'm sure is the same in the US, is that every province and every state is different, right? So some of them make the masks mandatory, others don't. So really depending on the province, everyone's getting the same toolkit, but depending on the province, they might get a different actual physical package or bundle in the store. So for example, some stores will get visors, some stores will get masks, some stores will get gloves, and I'm pretty sure all the stores will get protective screens, so a sheet of plexi to put in front of the cash. We also have other more generic instructions, for example, how to put on, take off your mask, how to put on and take off the gloves. So this we didn't create, this is like government documents. In terms of customer safety, we go again into social distancing and what that means when you're interacting with customers. And what I want to draw your attention to on this slide is in reddish pink down there. We're explaining to employees how to deal with customers who might be too close to them for comfort, and how to ask them politely to, let's take a step back. Social distancing is the best way to prevent the spread of the virus, and so on. So, and I'm going over this just so you have an idea of the kinds of tools and content that we're showing our associates. So at any point, if you have any questions. We also will be sending cleaning supplies to the store. So hand sanitizers and for hand sanitizing stations, cleaner, obviously. And then the new normal explains a little bit how those cleaning supplies will be integrated in the day-to-day, for example. One of the things is the flow of people in the store. So controlling the traffic, the number of people who enter the stores. As of now, I believe malls are still closed in Canada. So the stores that are opening are ones that have a direct door to the outside that are on the street. So depending, again, on the configuration of the store, on the number of employees that can be there, there might be one person who's standing at the front really controlling traffic. We also have in the store, we're going to have little arrows, so everyone flows in the same way, as well as marks on, like in front of the cash, for people not to stand too close when they stand in line. And this is part about customer service. So Ardene is our customer service model, and it was important to us to really restate that customer service is still important, and it's not because we're all wearing masks that it prevents us from having an interaction or to engage with our customers. You know, we can still make eye contact, and when you're not wearing a mask, you can smile, you know, and we still need to have a high level of customer service, basically. So a couple tips there on how to keep doing that, you know. Still be friendly when you explain the measures, for example, the social distancing measures to the customers and things like that. We also included a little section on selling tips, because that's changing, right? It's all these little things like that that we're going to have to adjust to. In terms of fitting rooms and merchandise handling, so this one we went back and forth a lot, because every province was saying different things, and finally last week there was no fitting rooms allowed and not allowed to do any returns and things like that, but now fitting rooms are allowed. So we made the decision that every item that was tried on or returned would be quarantined for a period of 12 hours. So in this case, some fitting rooms will be reserved just to quarantine some garments. So here we have, for example, explanations on what that means for associates, reminders, for example, that accessories shouldn't be tried on anyways, and that customers who are trying on things, they should do so if they intend to make a purchase. Like, it's not just for fun. We also made changes to our return policy, which previously was a 30-day policy. We're now extending it to 45 days. And another big change we're doing is we're now going to be doing cash refunds, which we weren't doing before. So the return policy is a temporary change, the 30 to 45 days. But I think the more flexibility with refunds that will stay on going forward. We also have FAQs, for example, for customers. So again, with the idea to still provide customer service and be there for our customers. And other operational changes, so reduced opening hours, again, according to provincial legislation, all of our stores are forced to operate on reduced work hours. Break and lunch times are now staggered, so no one will be taking them at the same time. It's only going to be one at a time. And we're asking people to disinfect their lunch area before and after their meal. And the bag check procedure. So we have a procedure of checking everyone's all the employees' belongings, when they start and leave for the day. So now the employee is going to have to open their bag, put it on the cash desk, and step back for the manager to look into the bag without having to touch their personal belongings. And the last section in this part is employee support. So we want to remind our employees that we're still there for them during this time. Our employee support team is available for them. Our HR business partners are available. And we also have in this section a little reminder about our violence and harassment policy, just because, people react differently to stressful situations, and we still want to make sure that we're protecting our people. The next toolkit is the management toolkit, so everything related to people management, which includes the recall process, so how we're proceeding, to call people back to the store, who's being called back and whatnot. We're also adding a health check process. So obviously every employee is asked to self-assess, if they feel well enough to come work in the store, but the managers will now be asked to validate their employees' health when they come in. So we have a little questionnaire, like 3 questions that managers will have to ask their teams at the beginning of every shift, which I'll show you. We also have quarantine guidelines, so different scenarios, of how and when employees should be asked to self-isolate or not. Additional questions and answers and resources. And finally, what to do if one of your employees has COVID-19. So as I mentioned, the health register is 3 questions that managers will have to ask their employees at the beginning of every shift. So the questions are on the left-hand side in the pink there. So 3 very simple questions. Do you have flu or cold-like symptoms? Have you taken fever control medication in the last few hours? And have you been diagnosed with COVID or traveled outside the province in the past 14 days? If the answer is yes to any of those questions, the employee has to be asked to return home and wait for 24 hours to assess if it's just an isolated case or if it's actually COVID. They also have a log that they have to complete, which is a basic table, employee name, date, and then a place to identify their answers to the questions. And we ask the managers to keep this log for future audits. For example, if ever there was a case confirmed in that store, then we'd be able to go back and identify when symptoms started or who this person was in contact with. Quarantine guidelines, as I mentioned, is different scenarios. So for example, what happens if my employee is confirmed or has COVID? What if they live with someone who has COVID? What if they were in close contact with that person? So we tell the managers the response for that. And then when the return to work could happen after that. So we have a couple of those. We also included a chart on the difference between coronavirus versus allergy symptoms. And this came about because our warehouse right now in Montreal is fully operational, and which we had to implement a lot of these measures there really quickly. And this is one of the questions that came up. People were had a light cough or were sneezing a lot, and everyone was panicking, and we kind of we're providing the tools for people to really understand what the symptoms are, what the risks are, and what the proper measures are. So this one is a very useful chart from the University of Utah. And then finally, we have, what happens or what to do if one of your employees is confirmed or develops COVID symptoms at work. So step by step here for managers to follow. The last toolkit is the marketing toolkit. So I'll show you some of the signage that we have. For example, we have easels that remind clients, if you have COVID symptoms, you shouldn't be here, please go home. Use the hand sanitizing stations and things like that. So easel and easel toppers. So I guess it's weird to call it a campaign, but we're calling it Staying Safe with Ardene. So you'll see that on all of the marketing materials. We also have something to put in the store window to confirm the store hours, which are now reduced, and the maximum occupancy. So that's part of the traffic control. We're following the fire regulations, which is, and I think we're doing 50% of what the fire regulations say in every store. So obviously, each store manager will be responsible for determining what that number is. We also have floor signage, so where to stand in line at the cash, and the flow in and out of the store. So yeah, that covers it. That was all the toolkit. So I'm more than happy to provide a lot of material. Hopefully it gives you some ideas. So yeah, I don't know if anyone has any questions or...
Hi, I'm Christina. I'm with Bar. Thank you, Jody, for inviting me. How are you deciding how many employees you're going to need to staff the store, like when you're first opening? And how are you deciding who to recall if it's not the entire store employee list?
Mm-hmm. Every store, we have we have very small stores and we have very large stores. So it was hard for us to come up with the kind of formula. We really left it in the hands of the district managers to determine how many people are needed for each store. What we're doing is recalling the management team first. So store managers, assistant managers are all being asked to come back full time. And then for the rest of employees, we're going based on a mix of performance and seniority and availability, right? Because as we're calling some people back, some of them, some full-time people only want to come back part-time, or some of them are in close proximity with someone who has COVID or has had COVID. So some people aren't able to come back either. And that was kind of a natural selection. So far, it's worked out. Like I said, only a handful of stores are scheduled to open this week. That's how we're going about it.
Hi, this is Rod. Great presentation. I have a couple questions on operations. As far as back of house receiving, are you issuing any particular directive to how to receive from Federal Express or UPS, how to manage the boxes, how to dispose of the boxes? And second to that, do you have a schedule of required maintenance on cleaning, door handles, bathrooms, etc.?
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. Those two components are part of our toolkits. Obviously, we try to make it as comprehensive as possible. For the boxes, I'm not sure of the details of how the actual reception is supposed to happen, but I know that every shipment they get has to be quarantined for at least 24 hours. So when they get the shipment, they have to wait till the next day to process it. In terms of the cleaning, we're asking people to disinfect, for example, their whatever they handle. So their lunch station, for example, when they operate the cash, they have to disinfect the cash once their shift or their time there is done. And we're also including in the hourly tasks to disinfect other surfaces that clients are touching, door handles, and things like that. So we have a checklist that identifies all of those added tasks, for example, which include the additional cleaning tasks.
Yeah. ML, you also mentioned that in between each customer using the keypad, that the cashier was responsible for wiping that as well.
Correct. Yeah. The payment processing terminal has to be wiped down after every customer.
Right.
Hi, I'm Jade. I noticed that you guys are taking any product that's tried on is put aside for 12 hours. How did you guys come up with 12 hours as the amount of time to keep it out of like rotation? And are you doing anything to disinfect it after the 12 hours?
To my knowledge, we're not doing anything additional to disinfect it. We have a lot of we're dealing with clothes. So I think it was just best to not go down that rabbit hole and figure out how to do that. In terms of the 12 hours, so I'm not part of the team that directly came up with those recommendations, but I believe it was a mix of the different government recommendations. Basically, what it means for us, if someone tries on a garment during the day today, it can't be used until tomorrow, right? So because very few of our stores are going to be operating for a 12-hour days anyways.
Right. So that is an interesting thing because, Mel, when we were talking prior, we were kind of discussing this concept. The one thing that you said, which was very interesting to me, is that this is a fluid policy, right? So, they might find out that they may not need to quarantine for, 12 hours, might be 6 hours, or maybe they need to use some type of disinfectant spray. Maybe they need to put it through a steam closet. Like, I think there's so many things that are in flux right now. So that, just really putting what the research says is best practices into, your managers and associates' hands, knowing that it's going to change. I mean, there's no doubt. Every day things are changing.
Absolutely. That's what we were trying to do at first, to come up with a really comprehensive toolkit with all the information. And we were really pulling our hair out because I said before, it's changed every single day. And as, different groups try to lobby with the government, things are changing all the time. And we've just kind of let go and accepted that this is version 1 as of this week. And we intend on updating it as new questions, new situations come up as well. We try to expect the unexpected, but we're well aware that these will need to be updated as things evolve.
Hi, it's Christina again. we are also going to do maybe the self-assessment at the beginning and have them sign off and have that, something that we can refer back to if we need it. Are you doing the same thing with the cleaning checklist? If you're asking them to do hourly tasks that they have to complete for cleaning, are they signing something off so that if you ever need to go back and refer to those sign-off sheets?
To my knowledge, we're not. We have a task checklist in our daily planner, like our task planner for the day. So they might be manually added to that, for example, the cleaning task, but I don't think we're asking employees to sign off that they've cleaned the restrooms or whatever. Not more than before anyways.
Christina, I think that brings up a very interesting point though, because, if you're assigning your team in store to wipe down, door handles of the fitting rooms or, POS or, things that are being touched often, I really think that does become the manager's responsibility to make sure that's done, placing the emphasis on, the need to have it done efficiently and all the time. So it is an interesting question. I think that having a check and balance is really good, but I think asking an associate to sign off on it might become a little cumbersome. But
Yeah, no, I agree. I know our HR though is taking just all of the precautions that they can, and kind of this hard stance of like, if we need to, if somebody gets sick and they say it was at our store, they want to be able to show, well, we've done everything that we can.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, I think that, so Cosbar, just so everyone, if you're not familiar with it, is a multi-branded high-end cosmetic store. So obviously there are different, regulations that are probably going to be taking place. I know bareMinerals, Natalie and Blas are next, so they're going to talk a little bit about the hygiene and the the ways they're going to be working with customers. So I do think that, to your point, every kind of store is so different. Every experience is so different. Every store's surfaces are so different, So I do think that you kind of need to take best practices and then bring them to, be realistic in your own environment. So our next presentation is from Blas and Natalie, and they are our clients from bareMinerals, and they have 80 boutiques and 35 outlets. In total, they have 1,900 employees. Natalie, I think, is going to be doing the presenting. So do you want to take it over, Nat?
Yes, I think Blas is going to start.
Yeah, I'll do a quick kickoff for everyone. Hi, first a special thank you to M&P for having us. We're so happy to be here, and it's so great to get to connect with you. I have to say, ML, I just wrote down 4 pages worth of notes from yours, so thank you. That was great. So I'm here from bareMinerals. Natalie and I are both on the global education team, and we have, it's been such an interesting journey starting to put these materials together, kind of piggybacking off of what has been said. It is a very fluid process. I don't think anyone has all of the right answers right now. Things are changing so often. One point that I will make is that we have boutiques, freestanding stores in the US and in the UK, but then we're also sold in a variety of channels. So in the US, Sephora and Ulta are 2 of our biggest. We're in Macy's, and then over in EMEA in Europe, we're in Boots, we're in Kicks, Douglas, we're in Mecca in Australia. So we're in 37 countries, and I honestly don't even have the number of different stores that we're in. But so we're trying to make sure that we have a global consensus on hygiene and our approach to going back to work. Also recognizing that every market and every channel is going to have different variations that they need to make to these guidelines. So before I turn it over to Natalie, what I will say is that our approach from a hygiene and safety stance, especially with customers, is we're working on really kind of 3 phases. What we imagine for most makeup stores moving forward is that we will be in a no touch, we're not allowed to touch a consumer, as well as a no tester policy. So that led us to think, look, if you're a makeup brand, how do you show someone a foundation if you can't touch them and you have no product? So what are you going to do? So Natalie's going to take you through some of the problem solving we've done there. Then our sort of phase 2 from there, and exact timing to be determined, is still a no touch policy, but we will have testers. So can a boutique employee, can they shade match on their forearm to get it a little bit closer to a client, but still maintaining that distance? And then the third phase, which I'm sure is pretty far down the road, is, hopefully we will get back to a point where we can get a customer to sit down in front of us, and with very stringent hygiene policies, they'll allow us to actually touch their face again. So that's where we are right now. And I'm going to turn it over to Natalie to take you through.
Thank you, Blas. So, all right, I'm going to share here. So, all right, thank you so much again for having us. I really enjoyed the last roundtable. It was great to meet some of you. I think maybe I met some of you. I haven't seen the whole list of everybody, but I'm so excited to join again, even if it's virtually. So today we're talking about hygiene and safety. So I think something that we can all agree on is that there will be a main focus within all client interactions for the hygienic safety of our customers, as well as of our employees, kind of what Marie mentioned before. Going forward, maintaining high safety standards will be the only way we can assure clients and staff that we are taking the necessary precautions while reopening our business to the public. Because bareMinerals is a beauty and skincare brand, we almost have a benefit here, and it's always been a high priority to us to provide our employees with clear brand standards when it comes to hygiene. What we currently have in place, like I mentioned before, has been extremely beneficial as we expand our direction in response to COVID-19. So here, you'll see what Blas mentioned before, our focus on the no-touch approach. So this will be an example of the no-touch approach as it relates specifically to foundation here. And as many of you know, if you do wear foundation, it can be extremely intimidating. It can be hard and confusing. If you go into a Sephora, how many bays do you see where it's like undertone here? It's not the same everywhere. So what we've actually created pre-COVID-19, which is great that it's available to us now here, is a shade finder tool to find your intensity followed by your undertone. So how we can use this here with our clients is that they can be guided in store. This can be presented to them digitally, excuse me, and they can just go through the chart to find their shade, and this will help you find 5 of our products down below here, specific to foundation. So right here, again, what Blas was mentioning before, this is the no-touch approach with and without testers. So again, we can help them find their correct shade. This will help them determine their intensity and undertone, and we can guide them through different formats, coverage, finishes through our foundations. So there's 2 scenarios here. So you're gonna have the no tester on the left here. And in that case, the employee can show a customer, and we can get into this a little bit later, but a great advantage that we have as well is these beautiful e-learning videos that we've created with our global makeup artist, Carly Giglio. So what we can do in store is bring up the iPad, we can play the video, and we can show a customer how to apply a product, how to shade match. So you're gonna have your shade matching tool in one hand, you can have the iPad in the other, you can press play, and you don't have to touch the customer at all. So, and I mean, they look great. They've been shot in studios and edited. They're gorgeous. In this no tester scenario, you can also explain to a customer, again, their undertone and intensities. You can recommend best shades just based on what you see and what the customer sees. And then we're really emphasizing our store's return policy. So, you know, a customer may be hesitant to make these purchases without trying on. And, you know, like I've mentioned before, you can try on foundations in stores, but also how many times have you been in a store where you've seen lipsticks that you've tried on every shade on the back of your hand, and the customer enjoys that experience. So now if they can't do that, you know, they can still feel confident to know that they can return the item, you know, and there is the flexibility there. And then the other scenario, which we mentioned before is the testers. So we can use testers, but without touching. So we'll use all of the same techniques as there would be with no testers. However, in this case, you can, swatch on your forearm, or you can use the clear plastic that we'll be introducing, where you can swatch like a foundation or even a lipstick. You would then sanitize the part that you touch, and then the customer can compare it to their arm if they're comfortable. And then in this case too, we would of course ask the customer if they're comfortable first and get permission from them in all of our interactions to make them feel, ensure that they're comfortable, of course. So
yeah, Natalie, that's great. And I just wanted to make one more note of that too. We will be putting up this foundation shade finder tool. This will be, it was originally created to be a physical tool that you can, hand to a customer. We know that that's not going to be the way of the future. So we will have this put up on Incite, as well as the directions and guidance for how exactly to use it. Kind of what ML was saying, we wanted to just get this done as quickly as we could, get everything approved through all of the necessary channels that has to go through. And then we'll put all of this up on Incite, hopefully in the next, 2 weeks, I'll say we'll have that all available.
So one other quick question, just with the videos that you were mentioning from the makeup artist to show the clients how to apply foundation, etc., are those going to be on Incite as well?
Yes, those videos will be up on Incite. They're actually, we have a lot of video content up there right now. I mean, we know video is what people want to see. And it's honestly, I think part of it is just reminding our teams, this is here, and let me just remind you where it is again as well within the learning paths. So yes, it's going to be in our shade matching module that's up there right now.
Yeah, because what I think, Natalie, not to interrupt you, and forgive me for 1 second, but I think what's so interesting about that is, Incite is predominantly a communication tool for associates, but now you're taking it and you're kind of, bringing it to the consumer also, which I think is wonderful. I mean, if you have it, why not use it for different things? So it's a very interesting approach.
And, we have, the platform itself, it's so beautiful. And, we know our internal teams love using it. And the feedback has been so positive that all of a sudden one day we were like, why are we spinning our wheels trying to make all of this new stuff when we have it? We're not giving anything away. So we show them the videos that are technically internal only, but there's nothing that we're saying in there that we wouldn't advise a BA to say to a client anyway. So we're really at this point where like this Incite, the app, is one of the best tools that we have available to offer to everyone.
That's awesome.
And I have to mention too, there was a little bit of resistance from our partners in the UK, just in terms of investing in a device, which, we understand that. In the past 2 weeks, we've added 600 new users to our platform because it's a no-brainer for us at this point. It's all here. So
I'm glad. All right, Natalie, I'm sorry. Please continue.
Yeah, sorry.
I just got so excited about that for a second, so I apologize for taking us off.
Yes. E-learning went from, an option in some places to now, a need. So we went full force, super fast. Okay, so yeah, and just off of this slide here, as part of this approach and the overall safety of our customers and employees, there will also be direction for all stores and counters to sanitize frequently. So this means the entire store, all tools, registers, anything you can think of in the store. We're sanitizing in front of the customers and between touching anything, as well as increasing our disposable applicators that we already have. And then if I have time, I would love to go over just some quick additional resources that we have, if that's okay. Jody?
Yeah, Scott, I think we're good on time, right?
Okay.
Yes, we are good on time. We're ahead of schedule, so you got extra time.
Okay, great. All right. So we have some additional resources for our teams that they can use when they're handling customers, just guiding their customers, besides the tools that we've already shared here. So here we have 3 points here: connecting from a social distance, Artistry and Tools, and also virtual consultations, which is something new that we have. So the first part that we have is as part of our service and selling strategy, we actually have 3 main pillars, which I know MMP is very familiar with at this point as far as bareU. But we focus mainly on connecting, customizing, and commit, which are these darker blue circles here. So we ask questions as part of connecting. We're actively listening in order to customize our products for customers or listening to their needs. And then, advising the customer on, making that sale as part of our service and selling, excuse me. So connecting is going to be something that I think we can all agree on will be extremely important and will need to be authentic and warm. We're starting to see this in the hundreds of emails I'm sure you all receive daily from companies. And then another thing that we've been thinking a lot of are, our BAs and employees wearing masks. How are we going to connect when we previously went over, body language when you're supposed to be smiling and, making a customer feel comfortable. So these are all things that we're tackling as part of, our direction to our employees when it comes to connecting to a customer. So something that global education has added to these pillars is this lighter blue bubble, acknowledging and reassurance. So even if consumers are not shopping in the same way, they're still seeking acknowledgement, advice and guidance, even though, conversations may be more direct and less chatty. We still want to navigate them, through selling, excuse me, keeping service and selling in mind, but also finding a balance here. So the second part of this, which are really exciting tools that we have here specific to artistry, first you can see our face charts here. So this was a new design, I think as of a year ago, that our global artists helped design with our creative team. So we've put together training for our teams, which is really beneficial on how to use a face chart. So it may seem pretty straightforward, but if you're giving this to a customer or if you're teaching techniques, it's not straightforward necessarily. We even use these for skincare, which is great. So we're training our teams on how to use them, and then how we can show them to customers is using the techniques on them in stores, and we can either give them to a customer, and then if they don't feel comfortable taking the face chart, we can offer to send them the face chart, which is a great option. And then, as we mentioned before, and Blas mentioned as well, we have these videos on e-learning here. So this is a little screenshot from Bare Pro Longwear Lipstick, so applying lipstick. So they can be shown to customers in store on the iPads. It's really great. And then something that's really exciting to me and that I would invite you all to do is to visit bareminerals.com on your mobile device. You can do it on your phone specifically. And if you search Mineralist lipstick, or if you just go under lipstick and find it, you can do our virtual try-on. So you can actually try on all of the shades virtually. It's really fun. Spent some time a few weeks ago doing it and sharing it with the teams. So I'm pretty sure that this is what our e-com team is working on going forward. This seems to be a direction. We'll do more virtual try-ons for products because it's just a really great thing to have. And it's on Sephora as well. I've seen it before. It's not new, but for us, it's very exciting. And Mineralist was our latest launch of lip color. So the shades are beautiful. So if you have some time, try it out. It's really fun. And then our last is our virtual consultations. So what we've begun doing in the UK is scheduling virtual consultations with our customers through the website. So they're scheduling it through customer service. And it's a great way to interact with customers. Obviously, it's a very safe way to do so right now. And the responses seemed pretty great so far. I mean, we do plan on expanding it to the US. We're still sort of figuring it out. But the training that we've put together for our employees, we sort of stress these points. So we have that the employees should really focus on the bareMinerals point of difference when they're handling a customer. So, reminding the customer what sets us apart from other brands. Again, they have e-learning here for their product knowledge. So we have a whole product library within e-learning that they can easily reference. So if a customer has a quick question on foundation or, on skincare, they can easily locate the product and talk them through while they're on the virtual consultation, or even as just a refresher for their prep before their session with the customer. And then sort of going more off of connecting the consumer experience. So we put together tools and training for creating the right environment. So do you have a bunch of clutter behind you on your Zoom call? Are you, how does your appearance look? That sort of thing. And then we're really serving versus selling the customer. And that goes back to acknowledging and reassurance. So, we still want to be considerate of how people are, dealing with the current situation. And then again, off of just body language, we want to make people feel comfortable, even if through a screen, we still want them to feel acknowledged and happy with their session, and that'll result in sales. So these are really great tools that we have, and we're really lucky. I know I mentioned it before, but we feel very lucky that we've created a lot of these tools already. We're not scrambling. So, we feel really excited for the future, and it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward. But yeah, thank you so much. And questions, please ask me for class.
So yeah, thank you, Natalie and Blas. It was really very interesting. And I think you brought up so many, interesting points. One thing that I absolutely love is the creativity behind the plastic swatching. I think that is just brilliant and so awesome. As well as, you mentioned that you're going to have virtual appointments, which I think for customers that have been bareMinerals fans, right, or, that come in for their refills, it's a wonderful opportunity to introduce an additional service to them. So I think that you took something that potentially could be, exceptionally hard and gave, your BAs a roadmap, to start using. So congratulations. I can't wait to see it kind of come to fruition in stores, and obviously we've been partners for a long time. So, hearing all about it and being able to assist you in any way we can. So, so any other questions for either Blas?
There's a few that have popped up in the chat box that we can go through. April asked, when are you reopening? It's market by market. We're following, of course, local guidance. As of right now, we do not have any stores open. Everywhere is still closed, even in the states that are open. bareMinerals is owned by Shiseido. Shiseido also owns NARS, Laura Mercier, Bare, Clé de Peau. So we will not open any doors until we get the green light from Shiseido Americas overall, which is, of course, Canada, the US, and Latin America. So we, to be honest, I do not think anything will be back up and running in the month of May. We're saying earliest is potentially in June, but we are, one of Shiseido's policies is people first, and they're really taking things one day at a time very slowly. So hopefully soon. And our warehouse has been closed in the US as well. We're reopening May 8th. So it'll be great to get some sales coming in for sure. And then, are you removing all testers, from Christina? Yes, we are removing all testers. And the way that that's getting communicated is, honestly, our approach is, there's no need to tiptoe around this. And I think that it's been interesting too, within Shiseido, some of our sister companies have taken a completely different approach. NARS, for one, if you look at their social media, they're really not addressing the coronavirus at all. They're just choosing to focus on artistry. That is their approach. And at Bare, our tone of voice, we're authentic and we're warm, and we will do that with our customers as well. So we're just saying, due to safety precautions, we will not have testers on the floor. And then, it's for your safety and for my safety as well. So that's the approach that we're taking to that.
Yeah.
And just in terms of timing, we do not have, strict like 2 weeks no testers, 2 weeks with testers. It's really, we're just taking things one day at a time and evaluating. The only other thing that I will add is that Shiseido Americas, we are sending all of our employees, bareMinerals, NARS, everyone, masks and gloves that are disposable. So I think we just ordered 1 million to start, and we'll be shipping those out to all of our, whether it's boutique employees or field employees, and that is mandatory that they wear them all the time to start.
That's interesting too.
Yes.
Totally unrelated, but related. Since that we have a good forum here, we are having such a hard time getting, especially the masks. We've been able to get gloves, but masks, like no vendors have them. So if there are resources that you guys can share, or maybe some of us who haven't been able to procure those supplies might be able to get some, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, I think I'll come back to you on that one. I'll either have Jody connect us or, she can pass it along, but we'll come back to you for sure.
Thanks. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Great presentation, Natalie and Blas. I don't have a question, but I have 2 comments. One, your presentation made me understand how important body language is, but more importantly at this point, because of the need for masks, how important eye conversation is at this point. The connection with people through their eyes. And looking at your beautiful images, I think that there's an opportunity there to teach our associates how to communicate with your eyes. Second to that, I'm a retail consultant. Almost all of my work right now is being done on Zoom or Team or one of these types of vehicles. I think you have an opportunity to help both men and women assess what they look like on these social medias. I, for one, am always concerned. I have to check myself before I click on. But I think that and watching other people that I work with, I think there's a market there for that. I don't know how you break into it, though, but think about it. And thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you. That's great.
That is very interesting. When I think about that, I also think about, other cosmetic companies, Cosbar and, Blue Mercury that are also on the call with us. And it's a very similar, kind of concept. And these virtual, Zoom meetings, kind of how do you prep for them? I was on the phone with majority of the presenters yesterday, and I did not look like this, I promise you. It was scary, but
and I know just one comment on body language, Rod, too, something that we're incorporating. I'm actually having my fiance here take pictures of me wearing a mask to show, I don't know if you can see, but for instance, when you greet someone in a store, if I'm behind the register and someone walks in, normally you would smile. But if you can't see a smile, we're actually giving examples of how you can greet, whether that's like this, where you say hi. I'm not sure if a wave is really as appropriate, but we are trying to show you, how you can plant your feet and, greet with your body when you can't see most of your face.
And I think that body language is going to be super important for every retailer who's giving face masks to their associates. Because, like you said, Blas, when you can't see, your smile, and even if you, are standing there, but your eyes tell so much and they express so much. I've spent a lot of time behind masks these past, 7 months. And, the one thing that my son Jordan said to me was that, do they know I'm smiling underneath this? And I'm like, yes, because your eyes sparkle. Right. So, it's one of those body language things that, you really, become more in tune to as you start seeing people, wearing masks more and more, and it could be something really, sweet also, like you could put, I'm smiling underneath this, something like that, which, I know, ML, when we first started training at Ardene and we were using the POS systems because there weren't as readily available iPads, the associates used to wear a button that says, please forgive me, I'm in training, or whatever it said. But it's the same type of concept where, that communication to the customer to let them know, how you feel or what's going on, I think is really important. So then I'm going to introduce April. Yeah, just a very quick overview of how we came to meet April and kind of how we've taken on our first partner in terms of content. April came to us by way of Ardene. Ardene and retailU had been doing a lot of work together, and Ardene wanted to put April's content on Ardene Campus, which is Incite, and both parties came to us and we were like, why not? Absolutely, it's great. And the content is very strong, predominantly for management training, so field managers and above, RMs and DMs. It's very much based, well, you know what, April will do a better job at explaining it, but it's really strong content, and I think extremely relevant for what we're going through right now. So without further ado, April, take it away.
Thanks, Jody, and thanks for inviting us. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So I love being on calls with retail partners because, retail people love being around people. So thank you so much for inviting me. I have a 25-year, I'll give you a really quick kind of background on me. So I have a 25-year career in retail sales and operations. I've worked for brands like Apple, Starbucks, Gap Inc., Holt Renfrew, a luxury brand in Canada. I've been in Canada since 2006 from the UK, went through the US and got here. I went from every role through sales and operations. So I started off as a store associate. And then the last role I had, I was the vice president of sales and operations for a national retail chain in Canada, which sells tea, David's Tea. And then a year ago, there was a lot of change happening. And I just decided after my 25-year career, I had this burning passion to create retail leadership training for field managers and above. And that comes from my history of building and developing regional directors, district manager teams, and store management teams. And fortunately, at the beginning of my career, I got to work for great American companies that provided those resources for me, and I was developed. And so retailU came about from that passion of being able to make it kind of accessible and affordable for everybody. And it's all competency based, it's all leadership. So not really operational functional training. When you think about training and development at retailU, we think about development, we think about competencies, we think about those skills that are going to help people grow and develop in their career and succession plan up. And then I was working with ML quite closely at Ardene just because they didn't have a head of stores. So I kind of went in a little bit of on a contract basis to help them because of that experience. And in the process of it was really they were helping us test and validate the content. And then we got introduced to Jody and Dave at Multimedia. So that's how it's come about. So today I'm super excited to be here. And and there's a picture of a book because that's about to come out. It's like my retail career story. So that's just on the slide so you can see that. But today what I'm going to share and talk about is really about leadership, which is a huge passion of mine, but I hope it's a passion of all of yours because, in this new norm, when we think about leadership in the new norm, and what's going to be required from leadership, it's really going to be around raising our tolerance for ambiguity and understanding the world that we're living in. And ML, you talked about it. You said you're learning on the go and every day is different. And you can't get stuck too much in a plan because the world that we are in now is changing constantly. And I know that at the field level, when you think about store managers and associates and district management teams, they really want clear direction. And a lot of people struggle with ambiguity and raising that tolerance to ambiguity, which is a crucial skill. When I worked at Apple, what we did that we were dealing with ambiguity and learning agility was one of those main competencies that they looked for when they hired people, because you were literally getting a product and launching it the next day and had no knowledge on it because it was rolled out within like a 24-hour period. Like I remember doing an iPad launch and we had no product knowledge training on it because we didn't want it to get out. So this is a crucial thing. And what we've been finding at retailU in the past 8 weeks is managers keep signing up for this how to develop agility and resilience course, because we have e-learning courses, and they want to develop this competency. So I want to talk to you a bit about that. And I hopefully today, what my goal is to, you know, give you some concepts and give you some thought leadership to think about when you go back with your teams and you're discussing things, that we're not just discussing operational best practices, because those are really important, but we are talking about the leadership and the communication, which is going to instill that confidence that we need in our frontline associates going back into their stores. So I want to introduce you to like a concept in terms of thought leadership, and this can kind of carry through when you're starting to think about your communication strategies, because the KUKA world, which we like to say, it's kooky right now, but the KUKA world is complex, uncertain, changing, and ambiguous. And it really is right now. This is a great way to look at the world that we're actually living in. And in the KUKA world, there are 3 levels of complexity. And, you know, again, now more than ever, you need to keep this. This has always been prevalent. It's always been important. But now with it changing even more, it needs to become even more of a thought process as we're thinking through communication and what we're doing, and be aware of this. So in the KUKA world, there's 3 levels. And you'll see, like, in the outer circle, there's the external factors. And external factors are things that we just can't control, right? So they're like the government, the environment that we're living in, the regulations that are happening, and specifically right now, the virus that's happening, right? COVID-19, we can't control that. This is all happening to us, and we are existing in it. And then when you go down to the next level, which is the characteristics of a healthy social context. A healthy social context is the culture in which we all exist. And our culture is important and has always been important, but right now it's so important to keep it intact for our employees and for our managers and our field leaders. And more importantly, to really kind of look at what's going to help us create that healthy culture. You know, everybody I work with, everybody company I have worked at has always had this culture and the values that we live by. And I've been on a lot of calls in the last week, and everybody just keeps coming back to their core values. And what creates that healthy social context really is about creativity. It's about agile, right? Agile right now is really key. Flexibility and having an openness to others and thinking about things in a different way. And then when you go down to the inner circle of the KUKA world that we live in, it's really around the qualities of connections to support that healthy second layer. And what that looks like is, how do we interact as leaders when we communicate? How are we communicating? What are we talking about? In which way? And these are the kind of the connections that will drive that. And that's like empathy, trust, compassion, awareness, right? These are all qualities of connections that are required even more so today, because everybody is existing in this KUKA world all the time. And everybody right now in our associate population is having such a unique personal experience based on different influences and different experiences in their life. So I want you to keep this in mind, because now I'm going to start talking to you about communication and what's going to be required specifically in communication in this KUKA world that we're actually existing in right now. And, you know, when I think about communication, you know, in my world, my previous life, when I was leading large teams and there was huge changes that happened in organizations, you know, there's 3 levels of communication. There's your executive level of communication. So you're on an executive team, you're making decisions, it's being discussed and then it's being rolled out. You have your multi-site management team, which are managing different locations and time zones. A lot of the time, different regulations, different policies, which are even more being compounded now with what's going on. And then the next level is the store associate team, right? And the store management and store associates. And this population is existing in a world where, you know, they're managing associates. So what does that communication need to look like? They're being influenced by external families that are talking to them about how they feel about how safe are you, how's your company dealing with this, you know, what does that look like? And these are all influences as well as the customer's perception. So when you think about these three levels of leadership, if you're not talking about this in terms of communication, then you should be. And with the executive population, it's about having a clear point of view. With the multi-site management, it's about giving them the resources and thinking about flexibility and agility and how do you keep them aligned and consistent. And then with the store management, I love ML and bareMinerals, what you shared, Natalie and Blas, about what you're giving those store associates and those management teams, because that is so important right now in today's world. So, you know, this is just zooming out and thinking about how do we actually communicate within those levels, which is really important, because there is a difference of communication styles that need to happen. But at the end of the day, the clear point of view is going to instill confidence all the way down. So I'm just going to move on. So, you know, how do you manage disruption in business as a leader today? You know, this is one of the questions that we just keep getting asked all the time. You know, instilling confidence in our associates, our store managers and district managers, we know that that comes from giving people knowledge, right? Like when you give people knowledge and training, you know that it instills confidence and they are equipped to be able to deal with whatever comes at them. But like what Amel said at the beginning is things are changing all the time, and being able to make sure that we're, as a leadership mindset, knowing how to manage and disrupt in business is important. So you've got to really think about what does each of these three levels require to instill confidence in each layer, and then to be able to instill it in your customers. And again, it all comes back to clear communication, right? And when we think about these, it's like at retailU, we have a 3-step model when we think about communication. And it's called accept, create, and teach. And this is what I've written about in the book, because accepting is really thinking around, like, I accept the reality of what's happening, and then I accept the real circumstances. And then am I providing and creating realistic expectations for my team? Am I creating a place that's developing and giving those skills required, not just in an operational practice, but those competencies like problem solving, like dealing with ambiguity, like conflict management? You know, like conflict management. I mean, I was watching a video on Facebook yesterday, and there was a customer that had come out of a grocery store in the US, and he was, you know, on camera with the store in the background, the brand, and he was basically saying the associates, the way that they dealt with him and the managers on wearing a mask or not wearing a mask based on the policy, he didn't appreciate in the way that they were doing it. And, you know, I relate that to how teams deal with returns in the past, you know, because problem solving and being creative and having some room for wiggle or ambiguity in the return was probably, when I was in operations, it was one of those things that reached me when a customer got out of control with returns. Now, it's like, how are you helping your managers and leaders in the front lines deal like with a customer situation that's not just a return, but with all of these layered expectations on top of them? And that is going to require strong communication, a thought process on, again, like I said, those conflict management skills. How do they deal with that? As opposed to saying, my company told me to say this, because that never goes down well with the customer, right? It just doesn't. So it's really helping them think through how they're managing the disruption, right? And think through those 3 levels of communication. So I think that's something that if I was gonna, if I was thinking through leadership and communication strategy, I'd be really thinking about that now, as well as building all the tools, those competencies that are required to use those tools and use them well. And then, the third piece of teach, when I say accept, create, teach is, again, teaching and mentoring and coaching. What are they going to need in the new reality? Like we coach on customer service skills. So what does that coaching look like going forwards? What are the expectations set? Because COVID's not going away, right? This is here to stay for a bit. So it's basically, how do you make sure that you're providing coaching communication tools and how to deal with situations? And some of the questions that come to mind are coaching in social distancing, coaching in your service model, how to handle customers that don't want to abide by these things, right? Again, conflict, and then coaching on dealing with customers in the new norm. So I think there needs to be some real deep thought going into this, because right now everybody's in recovery and policy and practices and operations. And again, that's important, but how do we support the teams develop those core competencies going forwards? So one of the things that we know is going to be very difficult is maintaining a positive mindset at all times. Like, I am the most optimistic person you're going to meet. That's why the book's called what it is. And I've been told that throughout my whole career. But I think one of the things that I think you need to really keep present when you're thinking about communication is, how do you help people maintain a positive mindset going back into work in this KUKA world that's happening to them all the time? And working with ML and Ardene, I'm going to give you a shout out, ML, because one thing that they did really well last year, which I was super impressed with, that I hadn't really seen anywhere else that I had worked in my past, was they had created this program called Mindful Moments. And so they were already ahead of this positive mindset and mindfulness. It's a Mindful Moments program, and it's basically a program for everybody in the store that when they're getting stressed, because they have a very young population of workforce, that they take these moments and they can pull out a card from a deck, and it's just like, take a mindful moment, take 30 seconds, take 2 breaths, think about something that puts you in a different mindset and go back. So they've got all these kind of little different cards to keep a positive mindset, which I think is really great and was really progressive. So I think you need to think through things that can create that in your stores, whether it be an extra, 5-minute break. It could be just something operational, like an extra 5-minute break that somebody can take. But what we do and spend a lot of time on is just creating really great tools for people. And this is specifically a tool that comes from a book called Change Your Life, Change Your Questions, Change Your Life by Marie-Laurence Gordon. And it's a fantastic book. It's a leadership coaching book. And in this book, she talks a lot about mindset and how to get from the negative into the positive really, really fast. Because we all go there. We're going to worry, your managers, your district managers are going to be listening to news. They're going to be listening to their family. They're going to be listening to peers in other organizations. Why are they doing this? Why aren't we doing that? And so we can flip between these two mindsets really, really fast all day. But what the learner mindset does is keep you in a solution-based mindset. And it gives you tools and questions to ask yourself to stay there so that you can be solution-driven. Versus the other side of the coin, which is in the judger mindset, where you can go down that rabbit hole of getting really stuck. And again, instilling confidence in our customers means our leadership teams that run those stores need to make sure that they can instill it in their associates by being the leader that we need them to be right now. And it's not going to be easy for them going back. I think about people going back just in terms of, if you've had 4 months off, you might not even remember passwords and how to use your register, as simple as that. Like, yes, we're giving them all these new things, but have we thought about the basics of things that they're going to need to go back? Because those, I mean, I know that if I don't use something repetitively, sometimes I forget how to use it. So there should be some kind of thought process through that too. So this is just a really great way. Just think about some leadership tools when you're thinking about communication strategies and how to support your teams. And then, you know, when I think about the role of leadership in any organization is to manage context in a way that creates the conditions for the team to take the right actions. Now, it's not always going to be perfect, and they're not always going to take the right actions. But as a leader, if we can try and manage the context in a way that can create those conditions, that healthy second circle, by showing up with those really great qualities, then, you know, hopefully 80% of the time they'll make the right decisions for the customer, and they're in first time experiences. And when you think about context, I want you to think about context in a way that there's three contexts that leadership manages in the field. They're managing the context of the customer focus. They're managing the context of the team and being in service. And then the last one is responsibility. And questions that they should always be asking, or you should be asking yourself when you're supporting these teams, is from the customer focus, is how can I improve the way our actions affect the customer? This needs to kind of be something that we're constantly asking ourselves, and those leaders are asking right now, because it's going to be changing all the time. I'm sure there's going to be different feedback that comes in. I think there's going to be different requests that comes in from store management. It's like, how are you gathering that feedback? One of my challenges when I ran big organizations and operations was gathering feedback from people. How did I get it? Right? Like, it was tough to hear it like directly because it gets so filtered. And then how do my actions look through the eyes of the customer? That guy on the Facebook video, that's gone viral. You know, like there's lots of them out there right now. So it's like making sure those leadership teams are equipped to deal with it. And context of team and in service, how am I preparing the team to be successful is a huge question. What information can I provide on our progress that would help people understand the impact they are having in this new world? And then when you think about responsibility, what obstacles do I anticipate and how will I overcome them? And then if we are not getting the results that we want, how quickly can we course correct and adjust and make sure those communication, you know, strategies are having those thought processes in place? Because I always say that it always comes back to leadership no matter what. And that's what we're super passionate about. So that kind of wraps up my portion. I hope it was beneficial, and I hope it created some thought leadership and some questions in your minds.
So I think that basically what you're saying is so important, because when you have leaders that feel comfortable and confident and strong and know what's going on, you know, they can in turn create a environment where all of their associates and then their customers feel the same way. Mm-hmm. So I think to your point, you know, when you talk about the different levels of leadership, communication is probably the most important thing that you can do. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, you know, just thinking outside of the box. I know all of us, well, all of you with your managers do morning touch bases, kind of the state of the business for today. And to take a moment that you're saying to put like a good thought in their mind, or, you know, to start off a meeting with that instead of like, so today we have to change our gloves 3 times instead of 4 times. And today we have to make sure that we have face masks, and don't forget to sanitize the blah, 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 right? It's just nice to take a moment and say, okay, guys, let's breathe, right? There's going to be some changes coming down, but I want you to know we're cool. We got this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just infusing that kind of level of control that your manager feels like, my team's behind me, so I can be with you. You know, right. I think that's just lovely, really lovely.
Yeah. So. We call them like positive emotional attractors. Yeah. So it's like create a positive emotional attractor. Best practice would be a great thing to do, right?
I call them warm fuzzies. Everyone knows that. That's where he knows that I call them warm fuzzies, but you know, warm fuzzies are a little bit more important now than ever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so oh, this keeps flipping on me. So I think there's probably a lot of questions. So anyone want to kick it off and start with something for April?
If you don't mind, I'd like to go first.
Of course.
Thank you, Jody. April, that was excellent. And my retail consulting practice with my business partner has been focused primarily over the past 20 years on planning, allocation, and inventory management, together with some other things. But in the area of inventory management, as we all know, our inventory is our single largest asset. It can quickly become our single largest liability. And right now we are looking at a closed industry with a lot of inventory backing up. So there are huge financial implications that every retailer, with the exception of perhaps the grocery stores and the pharmacies, are going to be facing. So as we go back into this environment, we are going to be looking to try to eke as much margin out of this inventory as we can, knowing it's already too old, and also facing new deliveries as fall begins to hit. And with all of that, we know that our associates are entering a workforce that they've been out of. They're coming into it with personal fear for the safety of their health. They also have financial security issues and families to feed. They're being challenged with engaging with customers that they can't get close to, managing their own financial security through the commissions, and meeting the sales goals that are going to be expected of them, all the while probably being challenged with, we're changing the promotions out again on Monday, and now we're going to take more markdowns on Thursday, and oh, by the way, take all that back up to full price because it's selling. So I think the environment's going to be somewhat chaotic for the people on the front line. In my classes that we provide in allocation training, I always explain to my allocators, or distributors as some people call them, the single most important person we have in a retail organization is our sales associate. They produce the profit. I also like to tell them that the second most important is the allocator, because they allow the associate to produce the profit by putting the product in the right place. Given all of that, and given the propensity for retail leadership to be a little emotional, as we've all experienced, I'm sure, how do we address these concerns that I'm sure all of our sales associates are coming to the table with, or coming back to work with, and at the same time going to be challenged with internally what's going to be a somewhat chaotic environment as we're trying to unload old inventory?
Yeah, I think it's a big question. But I always come back to when you build, and it's from my own experience. I mean, it's just my experience of leading and working within retailers and leading huge teams, is that through challenging times, the people that can actually step up and support are the ones that are equipped with the competencies and those leadership skills, you know, because there's all these things that come up them, but if they don't know how to deal with confrontation or conflict in the right way, they're not going to do a good job of it, which is going to amplify the situation. Or if they don't know how to deal with ambiguity and raise their tolerance to it, they're not going to deal with it. They're going to have to deal with it, but it's the how they're going to deal with it is going to be the question of whether we move through not 100% right, but like with more success or lack of success. And that's just what I've seen in my 25 years of building and developing leaders, is that usually, you know, I've worked in teams with leadership teams where they've lacked those skills, and then 6 months later they've got the confidence and they'll make a decision, because you have to make a decision at some point, right? And you're not going to get it right, but confidence with making a decision is confidence in my own leadership abilities of being able to own it and then kind of problem solve it, but as well as having like some models that can help them support that. And people, when times are tough and it's you're strapped for hours and you're under pressure, or you've got all this stuff hitting you, in my experience, that's one of the things that gets forgotten about. And it's one of the one things that when you provide a manager, the associate is, I agree with you wholeheartedly, the associate is the most important person because they're the ones that put the money in the register. But the manager in that store, to me, is even more crucial because they create the right experience for that associate based on their confidence and leadership skills. And I have seen that over and over again. And when people forget that, that can cause a whole other set of problems. Right. I mean, I don't think it's answering the question wholeheartedly, but it does come back to that person in the store and what we're doing about it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So April, I couldn't agree with you more because I'm sure we've all, in our retail careers worked for crazy managers that just were frantic all the time, didn't know what was going on, which way was up, which way was down, had things like, I don't know, because they told me to do it this way, and that doesn't instill any confidence at all, especially when we're at such a heightened level that we're looking to our leaders, and our leaders are looking to their leaders and so forth and so on. So I think it's critically important to really take hold of your management team and make sure they are set up for success. Conflict management, like you mentioned about returns, turning returns into a sale. Well, what about if a customer doesn't want to wear a face mask? You don't want your store to be the one to have that viral video going out there, right? And it is very challenging.
And also, what if the company makes a decision that's going against their personal experience of COVID right now? I mean, there's many times in my career I've had to roll out a policy, I've had to sell something. Maybe I didn't 100% agree with it, but I had a damn good job of getting everybody on board with it, right? So, because of communication and gaining buy-in from people and how to influence and communicate effectively.
Right. So has anyone been thinking about a specific management kind of plan to really hone in on those skills, making sure they are set up for success, whether that be online training or just even DM or RM calls that are going through? Is anyone really starting to take effect with that yet? No, not yet. Somebody? Okay. All right. Again, that's why I thought, April's kind of session was.
Yeah, I can share an experience with you that we've had. So we had an experience really quickly, Jody. We had an experience where a franchisee approached us because they had onboarded people and they didn't know what to do with them because we were just sitting at home. So they said, okay, we don't have this stuff. So let's just get them on board. So we talked to them this morning. And they've been doing some sessions now on the skill building, the competency skill building. And they said they feel like their managers now are going to be more ready to go back in this new world because they feel equipped with that leadership competencies. And they're discussing it against the new reality, which I thought was kind of cool, but it's a gap for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So does anyone else want to share any part of what they're doing? I think we have Jeremy on the line from L Brands. I don't know if you want to just give us a quick kind of overview of what's going on with your stores. I know that some of your stores have been remaining open, some of them haven't.
Hello.
Hey, Jer.
So we're in the process of reopening. It's kind of hit or miss. Bath & Body Works stores have been open for a couple of weeks now in select locations. And Victoria's Secret, I think, as of either late last week or this week, in select locations are starting to reopen. And I think part of what we're dealing with now is that decisions are being made in different locations, and we're reopening as quickly as we can assemble kind of all the planning and pieces that we need to support all of that. So the piece that I support personally, which is we're on the asset protection team, we're at top speed in the process of developing all of the materials for our team to support stores, while we're also trying to learn everything that's happening, and then also try to be flexible based on all the variations that are happening depending on the different locations. So trying to say, we want to be compliant with all these guidelines. Well, that's a moving target.
Yeah.
And so we're in the process of trying to understand, at least from our team, taking on a lot of the health and safety component of that, which is just really establishing what those, which is nothing really that radically different than I think what we saw in the first presentation, and just making those decisions. And so they're making those same decisions at the business, at the brand level around, I think for us right now, for Victoria's Secret, it's fitting rooms are not going to be used. Customers aren't going to be trying on stuff. We're not going to accept returns until we get a better grasp of exactly kind of what the landscape is like. So we're trying to deploy all of this stuff, and we want everyone to feel comfortable and confident. But the reality is there's so many versions of what that looks like and what the right answer is in every location.
Right.
So we're going through, and again, just looking at the specific piece of our function within the business is a large portion of all the things that we normally focus on, we aren't going to be able to even do. So when you talk about theft prevention and all of the things that are right in the domain, social distancing makes a lot of that impossible. Having conversations with associates. So we're looking at how we leverage technology, how we do all of those things. But it's been a big challenge for us, and for us, really the number one thing that we're trying to do is within our role, within our team, is help establish that comfort level, that safety piece, and be kind of a local resource regionally to help support the safety piece, to support whether it's guards, whether it's dealing with interacting with drivers for merchandise deliveries, for armored car pickups, for cash, all of the things, all of the people that they're going to have to interact with, and then working with those vendors. And so there's all of that stuff is happening. And as fast as we can assemble our plans, the brands are also opening up stores. So we're not in the point of, at this exact moment, having a fully deployed plan, in every location, which is not ideal, but it's just the reality. So what we're aiming for is a phased approach where we have set goals of things that we need to figure out this week, things we need to figure out, go forward, and then kind of milestones in the future as things start to incrementally return to normal, when we'll be able to start to reintroduce things that we were able to do in the past.
Right.
So
what I think is so interesting, Jeremy, that you bring up is, like, of course, you think of BBW and Victoria's Secrets and the amounts of stores that you guys have, pretty much all over the world. Having that flexibility brings me back to the point of April, which is still giving your managers the toolkit and the mindset to make decisions. Because, the initiative might come down from corporate that's saying, if your corporate office is in New York and they're saying you have to wear gloves, you have to wear a face mask, you have to, whatever. And then that person in that store in, Kentucky or wherever is seeing that no one's walking in with face masks, and it's really hindering the customer from coming in because they think, every associate has COVID. Your management team needs to be able to step up and say, this is what's going on in my store today. So, I think also empowering managers to have that, conversation or be able to talk to their leadership team about that is really important, and vice versa, of course. If, there's certain areas that don't need to wear masks, but associates want to because they feel more comfortable, there are certain things that I think everybody is, going to need to be flexible about. But anyone else? I know we have, who else is on with us? Let's see. We have Alyssa and Jade from Giorgio Armani. Do you guys have any kind of interesting things that are going on in your stores, and knowing that you are global, but I think, just kind of are your stores open?
So this week, we have opened some of the stores, specifically my stores. I support the central region. So in Texas, we have started. And for us, I mean, similar to what everyone is saying, it's a very fluid process day to day. We're learning from them as well. Of course, putting the guidelines in place to protect our employees, making sure our customers feel comfortable. On Friday, we will officially open to the public in those locations. So this week has just been preparation for the process, making sure that we have proper PPE for our employees, making sure that they understand social distancing, how to properly dispose of masks and gloves. So it's been a process, a lot of communication, a lot of training, and I think come Friday, it will be even more so insightful into that.
Yeah, excellent. And then, Bill, how are you doing in your stores?
Yes, I'm good. So we're a little bit like the other gentleman. We had stores that did not close at all. So we're in a lot of rural areas. And so we kind of used local laws and ordinances and let the leaders of the community kind of tell us if we should or should not close. So we kept roughly 150 of our 1,100 stores open throughout. We're now up to around 900 stores that are open. And so we're doing a lot of what I'm hearing from the presenters, all of which have done a fantastic job where we're supplying our associates as they're coming back in with PPE and with guidelines around social distancing and those types of things. And we, much like some of the other presenters, have a lot of young people that work for us, usually about 20 to 24 is our average age. And so we have to kind of rein them in. They're very excited to get back and sell sneakers, athletic gear and things like that. So we're trying to tell them, okay, maintain your distance. Sometimes they forget, but we are working through that. So we have a lot of enthusiasm around our openings. And so far our numbers have looked very good as we've started turning everything back on.
That's great. So just a little kind of 411 on Bill over there. Bill is from a very cool sneaker retailer called Hibbets. And what's the other name of the brands that you go under, the other stores?
So we have City Gear and then also Sports Editions.
Right. So very high end, very cool kind of sneakers. And what would you say, Bill? A little information about your stores.
Yeah. So to give, probably more people are familiar with some of our competitors than us. So we're very similar to a Foot Locker, a Shoe Palace, those types of things. Very trendy, very fast.
Much cooler though.
Yes, and much better people. All of that. So we all of the big players like Nike, Adidas, Reebok, Fila, Champion, basically anything that is hot in the moment is what we focus on. A little bit of equipment, so we still do some athletic gear as well, but the business has definitely transitioned over the last decade to be much more sneakers and streetwear. Jody's son is, from what I hear anyway, is our typical kind of customer. We want to be able to make sure that they're happy with us.
Yeah, it's a great brand, great stores, great products, and I think everyone is probably like salivating the fact that you were able to keep open, 900 stores. So good for you. Good for the company. So thank you for sharing, Bill. We appreciate it. Laura, are you okay talking a little bit about what David's Bridal is doing? Because we've been privy to see a little bit of the programs that you've been putting out on the platform, and they're very cool.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for letting me join. I kind of joined in last minute here, but I can definitely speak to what we've been doing. We have reopened some of our stores as of last Monday. Right now we're under 100 stores, and we're doing a phased approach, kind of a rolling opening over the next couple weeks. And we're really limiting since we kind of have a very intimate shopping experience, similar to some other brands on the call today. We're limiting our appointment base. So as of right now, we're only going to take 2 appointments per appointment window, keeping our maximum occupancy to 15 in the store at all times, which includes our store associates, front of house and back of house with our alterations team. Alterations, same way, kind of limiting our appointment base to minimize, the number of people in the store at any given time. And all of our associates we've required them to wear masks, gloves. We've provided them with face shields and goggles. We're also asking customers to wear masks as well, and kind of doing the card-only payment, doing a lot of the same, methods that some other brands approaches that some other brands are taking. But we're getting some really great results and some feedback from our customers that is just kind of helping as we move forward and reopening the rest of our stores.
Mm-hmm. That's excellent. So I have a maybe a silly question, but I'm just curious. What did you do when you had brides that needed to get their gowns, but your stores were closed, or bridesmaids, or whoever?
Yeah, no, that's not a silly question at all. We actually contacted all of our customers that either had merchandise in the stores or had appointments for a fitting or you're coming to pick it up, and we offered to ship their product directly to them for free, so everyone could get their products. If they still needed alterations, we had said, we're closed right now. We're happy to bring you back in for alterations when we're ready to accept appointments, but we'll at least get you your product if you'd like to receive it. So that's what we did during the time being when we were closed. Now that we're reopening, I should also mention that we're kind of proactively calling all of our customers who schedule appointments and asking that they try to at least bring one person with them. We're not having any of our stylists enter the dressing rooms with them to assist customers to get in the dress. Since that's obviously a very intimate process. Trying on gowns can be, a little tricky, right? With some of the pieces that are associated with it. And so we're kind of asking them to use our platforms to select dresses ahead of time as their favorites, and we'll get them all set up before they come in. And then if they can bring a guest with them, their guest will assist them to get into the gowns, and then we can kind of show them how, if we clip it a certain way, or if, just kind of how it fits them without really any direct contact with our customers in the stores.
Right. I think that's great. I think that really shows that you're thinking through the process and understand, like you said, the intimacies of trying on, gowns, or really, even for Armani, when you're talking about, anyone coming in for any type of, major dresses or suits or anything like that. It is an interesting concept to think about, for everyone. So I have a general question, whoever wants to chime in. When you think about kind of the go forward, so today we're at, level 1, phase 1 of what everyone's going to be implementing. What are you most nervous about losing from your customer, associate, training, standpoint?
I know for us, we had a big conversation about customer confidence, because it's one thing for us to be prepared to receive them and to make the store as safe as possible, but we have to convey that to them as well. They have to feel safe to come back into our store, and we don't know what to expect, really.
Right. I agree with you. Was someone else going to say something?
Yeah, is it all right if I jump in? I think from a safety perspective, there's starting to be a backlash against wearing masks in certain areas. So I think that brings up, again, security concerns, where there's already been violent interactions in stores with people who refuse to wear a mask or refuse to comply with whatever the local guidance is. So I think that's a concern that we have. And then I think, again, for our team, which is a distributed field team, at least in these early stages, we're choosing not to enter stores. And then I think that connection, that piece of that interaction of not having that in-person connection point, that we have to, because there's occupancy issues in terms of if we enter the store, then that's one less customer that can potentially be in the store depending on where they are. So not having the ability to do that, and then not necessarily being in a situation where our stores have the tools in place to have this type of technology to communicate with us, where they can see and talk to people, their partners. So I think for now, trying to help support and enforce some of these new guidelines and policies without the ability to physically be present is a challenge.
Yeah, 100%. Because I think to your point, it's like we're putting social distancing in our stores. We're putting markers of where you should stand in line and how many people are going to be allowed in our buildings at one time. But really, at the end of the day, do we think that consumers are going to be ready to go out and ready to start shopping in store environments? I mean, I know, like my friends are like dying. They're like, oh my gosh, I haven't been shopping in, 6 weeks, and whatever. And my kids are like, can we go to the mall? I'm like, the mall's not open, honey. So I don't know where you're going, but you're not going to the mall. So, what's kind of the mindset around that? Are we thinking about different ways to drive traffic? Blas and Natalie mentioned those virtual appointments. Rod mentioned taking that and kind of bringing that to today's lifestyle, which I think that was a brilliant suggestion. Marie-Laurence, with the social campaign that you kind of have going on to keep Ardene, in the mindset relevant. So does anyone else have any thoughts about that, or are we doing anything around that?
Just from a beauty perspective, I think a lot of the ways that we typically drive traffic in store is through eventing, which, that involves someone else getting very close to your face. That's just, it's makeup and skincare. That's the name of the game. So we have been, I don't have an answer right now, but we've been very challenged in thinking of ways, especially if masks are, the new way forward. Is lipstick going to be, I look at April with your beautiful lip that you have on, how many women are out, and men, buying a bright pink lipstick right now. So what is that going to look like, for us? So we're really trying to get creative. Natalie brought up our virtual try on. That's something that we're really working on, is some more digital tools. And also knowing that at the end of the day, yes, we are going to be in a very different world, but human connection is what, it's a part of human nature, and it's what people crave. And we are, confident at bareMinerals that people come to us because they have been for 25 plus years. And yeah, we're definitely at it'll be a large bump in the road, but I think that, on the other end, whether it's a year from now or, I don't know how long, but that we will still have customers in store who want that face-to-face.
Right.
Okay, can I share something with because I know the Canadian MAC events manager quite well. Can I share that? Because I've got a really good network. So she runs all of the events for Canada for MAC Cosmetics, and she said the same thing. Like, they drive events, and she's like, what is this new world going to be like? So what she started doing is, and this could be a tip, like, for anybody really, because it's applicable to any retailer, but she started running Instagram lives with the beautician, like they call them, I don't know what they call them, I'm going to say the wrong thing, but everybody in the stores that does the makeup and everything. So what she's been doing is she's been inviting people onto these Instagram lives, and they've been doing makeup tutorials and talking, and it's been really cool. I've been attending some, and I'm like, oh, I need to get that lipstick because it looks really good on that person's face. And I actually said to her, when you guys go back and open your stores, you should actually put some signage somewhere that says, or something like Instagram Live happening tonight, because it's just really interesting to listen to her talk to an artist about their experience, their careers, as well as paint each other's face and have this chat about it. And I was like, that's genius. I bought 2 things after it. Online. So I think things like that as well, thinking through things like that, because we have a generation that are quite comfortable. I know my kids are quite comfortable on Instagram Live, probably more than we are, but I thought that was quite a good thing for them to think about driving sales that way. And she just came up with that.
Yeah,
love that. That's great. Yeah.
We also have Catherine on the line from Brooks Brothers, and she just mentioned a little bit ago, sorry, Catherine, I missed you, that they are making masks. So she's not sure what the costs are, but obviously Christina from Cosbar, she popped off, but I'll definitely, get her in touch with you. So, obviously if you all want to connect, if after this, I recorded this, so I can share that with you. Everyone said that was okay. If not, again, just email me personally. I just want to be, a little bit cognizant of our time, because we are getting to about 4 minutes to 4. I wanted to say thank you all for joining us, and especially to Marie-Laurence from Ardene, and Natalie and Blas from bareMinerals, and April from retailU for working on these presentations, working on them very quickly, because I think honestly we put this together in like 3 days. So it shows the power of our community. And And I also wanted to mention that for those of you that are on the Incite platform, we had extended you all 2 months of no charge gigabytes for uploading content, and we're going to extend that 1 more month for you. So with that, think about potentially getting some executive messages from your leadership, getting that out there. You don't have to release it, just give it a release date for when your stores are open, but take advantage of the fact that you'll have this bandwidth available to you at no charge. Use the video to demonstrate any techniques that you have. As you know, if you use the platform, you can set it and forget it. So you can upload it now and let it go live in a month or 3 months, and you won't have the bandwidth charge. So that's always nice to know. We have been very blessed to have an amazing team at MMP, as I'm sure you guys all feel the same way, who have really helped us through a lot of challenges this year, as a lot of you kind of know us well. And one of our associates, Stephanie, who's on the call with us, she has lost 2 people to COVID within the last, Steph, what is it, 2 weeks?
Within the last 3 weeks, yeah.
So it affects us personally, obviously, and I'm sure you all, I know Mary Jo's on the line, who's one of our advisory members, whose husband is a pediatric oncologist. Is that right, Mary Jo? But based in Madrid, Spain, and has just seen such horrific the magnitude of this, COVID. So, I think we all need to do our part and be diligent. Of course, we all want to get back to work, no one more than, retailers, right? So just wanted to say thank you. And I really appreciate you all being with us. And, we're here to answer questions. If you have any questions, I will ask. I know, April, the deck that you put together with the slide at the end with the questions and kind of the answers, that got a lot of good chat comments. So maybe if that's okay, we can share that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, obviously, if you guys have any comments after, or post thoughts or anything that we can do from any standpoint, we appreciate you, and I know you guys appreciate us.
Thank you so much.